There are times when we need to assign some business rules that are not really validations, but are rules that need to be applied to the columns in Excel to capture the correct behavior. Boardwalk Velocity provides these capabilities, and in this video we will get an understanding of what column level rules are and when to use them. Let's begin with looking at the various column level rules available in Velocity. The option Predefined Text Columns allows us to let Velocity know that a particular column needs to be treated as text. The option Date Column for History lets Velocity know that when producing history, the date columns should show up as dates. A machine's locale dictates how Excel displays numbers and dates. The option Locale Dependent Column Configuration allows Velocity to display numbers and dates as per the user's locale settings. For example, in the US, a decimal point is represented by a dot and a thousand separator is a comma. However, in some European countries, the roles are reversed. A decimal point is indicated by a comma and a thousand separator is a dot. If these differences are not properly managed, the results can vary significantly. Our data sometimes includes leading zeros, which we want to retain in Excel. However, Excel suppresses leading zeros by default, removing them even if they are stored in the database. To prevent this, we can set the column format to text, which preserves the leading zeros. It's important to change the column format before importing the data. We can achieve this using Velocity by configuring the column as text. To do this, click on the column header, then select Predefined Text Columns from Column Level Rules. A confirmation message pops up, indicating that one should regenerate the format. Click OK to continue. Click OK on the next pop-up message. When we review changes for the cuboid, either for the row or table, the dates are reflected in the way Excel stores them internally, that is, in numbers, which is not very intuitive. From a user's perspective, they would like to see date represented as date in history too. Boardwalk Velocity has a configuration that can be set to do so. Click on the header of the column containing the date, followed by clicking on Column Level Rules, then on Date Column for History, followed by Set as Date for History to configure. A message confirms the configuration. Click on OK to continue. Let's review changes for the row to see the effects of the configuration. Users face several challenges due to different locales and spreadsheets, specifically when sharing spreadsheets internationally. 1. Different countries use different date formats. For example, mm/dd/yyyy in the US versus dd/mm/yyyy in many European countries. This can lead to misinterpretation of dates. 2. Variations in decimal and thousand separators can cause confusion and errors in numerical data. 3. The names and syntax of functions can differ between locales, causing compatibility issues when sharing spreadsheets internationally. 4. Differences in how dates and times are interpreted and calculated can lead to discrepancies in results. 5. Local conventions for data presentation, such as the use of different currency symbols or parentheses for negative numbers, can vary. These differences mean that if a spreadsheet created in the US is opened in Germany, or vice versa, the formulas and functions might need to be adjusted to match the local conventions. In Velocity, we can configure these type of columns as locale dependent, which takes care of the conversion or representation of data in the user's workbook. We should set TXN date and TXN amount to locale-dependent columns if we are to share the workbook across different countries. Select the column header for TXN date, click on Column Level Rules, then on Locale-Dependent Columns, and then Set as Locale-Dependent. A message indicating the column has been set pops up. Click on OK to continue. Similarly, we can set up the TXN amount to be locale-dependent too. In case there is a need to remove the locale dependency, this can also be configured. From locale-dependent columns, select the column and then click on Remove Locale Dependency. The column then will no longer be locale-dependent. In this video, we learned how to configure business rules that are needed and are not validations. We now know how to configure velocity to treat columns as text and preserve leading zeros in Excel. We learned how to configure velocity to display dates as dates when reviewing row or table changes. We also learned how to configure columns that are impacted by different user locales. Addressing locale challenges requires careful consideration and configuration of locale-specific settings in spreadsheet software to ensure data is interpreted and displayed correctly. This concludes our Developer Training Session 3. Thank you for watching. Please proceed to Developer Training Session 4.